Hi everyone, I'm Lisa and welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I've got a beautiful card for you using the Lasting Lily stamp set for a dear friend. This card can be tweaked to use for any occasion. Maybe it's a birthday or a sympathy or get well card, but here it is, and I'm going to give you some tips about the rectangle stitch dies when we create today's card. If you're here visiting from YouTube, you'll find a link down in the video description below, which will lead you over to the pictures for today's card. And if this is your first time visiting me here on YouTube, I'd love to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the subscribe button below and then click the bell icon that's next to it. By clicking that icon, you're assured of receiving notifications of when I'm live here on YouTube, as well as when I upload a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. Here's a close-up of the card we're going to be creating today. Isn't this pretty and quite simple? I'm going to give you some tips about the ribbon as well. We're going to start with the focal point. So I'm going to bring in a small piece of grid paper. These are fabulous if you're stamping, especially with friends when you've got a tight space. We also sell these in a larger sheet and they're really economical and they are double-sided. I've got a piece of Whisper White cardstock here and this is where we're going to be doing our stamping. And I'm going to be using the Lasting Lily stamp set. Now if you're looking for this in the catalog, you're not going to find it. That's because it's part of the free offerings offered during Stampin' Up's largest sale of the year, which ends on March 31st. Now these supplies are only available while supplies last, so please keep that in mind. There are products in here that are completely free. It's your choice with any $50 product purchase. And for those of you with a larger wish list, you can choose products with the $100 level. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're interested in receiving complimentary copies of the current catalogs, just leave me a comment below and I'll get a hold of you to get your address. And I'm going to be using the stem with a leaf on it. Now I want to point this out to you. There are two stems in the stamp set. The one with the leaf is smaller, intended for the smaller lily, and the larger stem is intended for the larger lily, and it has an independent leaf as well. So you can use all kinds of combinations here. I've got a piece of scrap Whisper White cardstock here, and I'm going to start by stamping my stem. And I've got Pizzazz ink, and I'll go ahead and I'll ink that up. I'm going to stamp that here. Now we are going to die cut this, so placement on my scrap is not real important. I'm switching over to the Grapefruit Grove ink, and I'm going to take that small lily and we're going to line this up. Because it's photopolymer, you're going to find that it's relatively easy to align. The beautiful images in this stamp set are what we call distinctive. This is an exclusive design to Stampin' Up! They're meant to look more like photographs than stamped images. I'm going to be adding a greeting, but I'm going to do that after I die cut. And I'm pulling out the rectangle stitched framelits. They're probably one of my favorites. You can see all the different cascading sizes here, of course the one I've got out. All of our dies do come in a plastic reusable envelope that slips closed, makes it great if you're going to be stamping with friends and transporting these to crops and stamping events as well. I've got my Big Shot die cutting machine here and I'll be using my magnetic platform. That's my platform of choice to help hold my dies in place. I'm going to place a clear cutting mat on the bottom and then I've got my image here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up on where I'm going to want this to fall. I want to leave a little bit of white cardstock at the top. And I want to make sure I get as much of that pretty lily in as possible. When I'm happy with its placement, I'm going to place another clear mat over the top to protect it, and then we'll crank that through. These are very detailed dies because of the stitching, so I'm going to give you a tip. Flip it over once you've cranked it through once, and make sure that you've got a good impression all the way through before you dislodge the die from the cardstock. So I'm going to remove the negative backing, and then I'll come in and just pop out the image that's stitched. I'm just working my finger all the way around. Now I can come in and add that greeting, and I'm going to be using my Memento ink for that. And from that same stamp set, I've got the words Dear Friend. So I'll ink those up. And I know it's going to be a tight fit, and I'm not sure I'm going to get all those dots, but that's completely fine. I'll stamp that here near the bottom. We're working with a smaller card base today. This is 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. Just prior to the video, I did score it, so I have a center point. I'm going to go ahead and fold that, and I'm a big fan of that bone folder for that nice crisp edge on my card. I'm using the Designer Series paper from the Share What You Love collection. Absolutely beautiful. They are double-sided. You can see the peralized images on this side. This package is very abundant. I also find that it's a lot thicker than a lot of the Designer Series paper, so I really enjoy using it even for 3D projects. I'm going to want the dots for the front of my card today, so I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to add adhesive to the back side. The snail adhesive is very easy to use. It's very easy on your hand, and it refills for just $4.50, and that gives you 472 inches of adhesive. Now I'm going to border this on the card base, leaving a small white border all the way around, and then I'll just press that in place. I've got a small piece of Grapefruit Grove cardstock here, and this is where I'm going to put my image. I chose to use dimensionals to mount it, so I'm going to go ahead and pull off some dimensionals here. I'm very cognizant that my cards are going to be going through the mail meter at the post office, so I always like to make sure that I have a sufficient number of dimensionals so that as it comes through the other end of that postage machine, my card is going to be well balanced. That's going to get mounted here on the left-hand side of this layer. And this is where I'm going to add my baker's twine. I'm using the solid black twine. I'm going to go ahead and pull off some of that so I can work with it a little bit easier. I'm going to wrap it to the back, and I'm going to leave a tail in the front so that I can tie it. And I'm going to wrap it around here twice. Now I want to give you a little bit of a tip. If you're like me and you have difficulty tying because it keeps slipping on you, we're going to use a glue dot. I'm going to go ahead and cut this other end first. And I'm going to take my glue dot and I'm going to use my Take Your Pick pickup tool. I've got the attachment on the end for the paper piercing tool. So it has an interchangeable tip with a small spatula on this end to get up underneath those dimensionals if you make a mistake. And it also has another interchangeable tip that has a dual-sided stylus tool. This end has a putty tip, which makes picking up sequins and small pieces of paper super easy. There are protective caps that go on both ends, and it also comes with a refill. Now you will not find this in the current catalog because it's a fairly new product, but you can find it in my online store at lisastampstudio.com, and it's called the Take Your Pick pickup tool. And I'm going to use that to pick up one of the glue dots. Now that might be kind of difficult to see here on the video because they are clear. And I'm not even worried about what shape it's going to be. And then I'm going to pull it off with my fingers and I'm going to roll it into a tiny ball. And I'm going to look and I'm going to decide where I want that to go. And I know that I want it here in the center of this panel. That's going to help hold these pieces together. Now I'm going to turn it horizontally to make it easier for my hand. And I know I want it to be a little bit of an X. And I'm going to make a tie. And that tie is going to slip right on top of that glue dot to hold it in place. And then what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll separate these pieces so they look a little bit better. And then I'm going to start by making a single tie. I prefer to do that when I'm working with small pieces of ribbon or baker's twine because I want to make sure that the bow doesn't come undone as I'm slipping it in and out of the envelope. And then we'll go ahead and make a bow with what's left. Now, if your loops are all uneven like mine, I'd like to provide another tip for you. Go ahead and put your finger on that knot and press, and then take your loose end and gently pull. That's going to adjust those loops so that they can become more even. Now, once you're happy with it, you can go ahead and trim up your ends if they need it. And now we have our panel. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to add some more dimensionals to the back side, and then we'll take off those paper backings as well. This is going to get mounted on the left-hand side of our card base. So I'll go ahead and place that here. That'll leave plenty of room for that beautiful designer series paper to show. So here is the card that we created together today. Here's the one I created before you joined me. If you've enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. That's a like for YouTube, and it makes them and I both very happy. You can find great rewards for your online orders over on my website at lisastampstudio.com. Thanks so much for joining me today, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.